On this episode of Star Trek Universe, McCoy slaps Catwoman, and as a result, only he can touch her kitty. Effie and I are talking Friday's Child, right after these warring Capellans' death cries subside into ethereal echoes within the distant mountains. Welcome to Star Trek Universe. We are continuing our original series watch/rewatch with Star Trek 203, Friday's Child. I am David C. Robertson. I've seen it all.
I am Effie Pelders, and I have seen this for the first time.
Friday's Child.
Or if not, I've forgotten the first time I've watched it. So yeah. I'm assuming this was the first time.
It doesn't count.
No, exactly. Things you don't remember didn't happen.
Yeah, that's why we're recording it, so that you will remember that you saw this at some point.
Yeah, or at least if I forget again, someone can prove to me that it did happen. And hopefully I'll believe that at that point. I don't know. PTSD can be a weird son of a bitch. Like, who knows what else I'll forget.
Yeah, it'll be like a notebook situation. Like when you're old, your spouse will play you old episodes of the podcast. Like,
oh, that'll be fun. Yeah, and I'll not recognize myself, probably.
I play her episodes of her podcast, and she remembers.
She gets a glimmer in her eye, and suddenly she knows her name again.
She snickers and says, "Eat a dick, people. Eat a dick."
That's truly all we can hope for once I'm, like, 85.
Yeah. You'll just be laying there in your bed
Best
and going
case scenario.
like, "My dick is on Trelane's mantle."
Pretty much. Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Friday's Child was written by D.C. Fontana.
Hey.
And then revised by Gene Roddenberry.
Of course. Wah.
The
audience responses, yeah.
The Memory Alpha synopsis: the Enterprise becomes involved in a local power struggle on planet Capella 4, where the Klingons want mining rights. I've always thought this was such a weak episode. I'll just say it.
Yeah.
It's one of my least favorites.
It has some fun stuff, but it also has just a bunch of we're trying to compensate through costumes for what is otherwise a pretty bland thing. Like it does some world building where I'm like, okay, so there's a mineral that does a thing, there's a new species, we get some more Klingon information, sure. Fun. Like I even appreciate the fact that all of the what is this species again? Like the
Capellans,
I guess. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
just named after the planet. Should have figured. The whole double vowel thing in all of their names, the AKR, the LAN, the just all of that, like that consistency. It's fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But it does have a lot of, okay, we're up in the mountains, why are we still just making bows and shit? Like, and then there's, of course, McCoy just, being a completely ethical medical professional and slapping the shit out of someone because she doesn't want to be touched, which is,
well, that was...
It's better than other ways of subduing a patient, I guess. Not always. Like, you could have just sedated her instead of. Yeah, no.
There's a part
suggests. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, okay. Well, if with sedation there is a lack of consent, but with her culture,
yeah.
The man takes charge and slaps the shit out of her. That means he's in charge of me. She didn't want him to touch her until he slapped the shit out of her. And then she She slapped him, and then when he finally slapped back, she was like, "Okay, only McCoy can touch me."
Yeah.
So, like, I get it. Like, it's a cultural thing. It doesn't feel necessarily sexist, except for the entire way that this civilization treats women.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there was there was definitely an intention there that got subverted with Roddenberry's hand that we'll talk about.
Quite possibly. Well, I'm curious to hear those things. It's always fun when we get to the production side of things. Because it is very much a case of like, yeah, I get the purpose, but also he didn't know for sure that slapping the shit out of her would make her be suddenly into him.
No, maybe not into him.
Like,
just submissive enough to let him get his job done.
Yeah. He has spent time with the people, so he would.
He was the expert.
Realize like she might respond to force.
Yeah, no, he was
that
absolutely
just
the expert.
Suggests so much garbage about this society.
Oh, this society is terrible.
But yeah, oh god, awful. It is like, oh, we're all very honest, and she sort of invents a lie for the first time near the end.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so many awful things happening in that sense, where it's like, okay, so she hates the child, which is told to us through the voiceover at the start of an act, and that's just in and of itself like, oh god, this just a lot of dark stuff in there where that doesn't quite get explored, because we also just have to, shoot some arrows and kill a Klingon, which was, he got that one coming.
Oh, Jesus. This episode, she hates her child. The thing where she hates her child makes sense in the original draft.
Ah, okay.
And then it was left in after Roddenberry changed some stuff, and it's
of course.
Okay.
Yeah, because it felt like it could be going somewhere. It also felt like, oh god, is this a 60s TV show tackling abortion? Because I would be intrigued, but not in a good way.
Yeah, well. So this episode is kind of like Errand of Mercy, which was the first appearance of the Klingons. It was like they said, remember Errand of Mercy? Let's do that again, but take all the wrong lessons from it. You literally have Kirk here going like, oh, we've got to make sure to get the Klingon. And Spock is like, revenge? And he's like, yeah, why not? No notes. Cool, Captain. Let's do that shit. One, they're just the worst version of themselves. It's like, there's no fun. There's nothing clever about it the way Errand of Mercy did it, where Kirk was basically as bad as Core. He was just like, we'll give you
it's a much clearer black and white. No, they're
the bad worst guys.
Yeah, they're bad, and it just so happens that this civilization is vulnerable to their specific kind of bad. And we have to somehow convince them that they will just blow up the planet and fuck them over.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's about it.
And upon casual
and it's
viewing,
over resources, so to me it just felt like, oh no, we have the bad colonialists and the good colonialists, which to me is just like, I'm not sure I should be rooting for the Federation in this one, because they're feels off.
Also, we have seen though how Core and his Klingon friends did in Errand of Mercy. So Kirk's not wrong. He's like, they're one of the big selling points for us is that, you become friends with us. Your planet stays your planet. You do what the hell you want.
Exactly. There's an autonomy there.
Until you're about to kill the widow of the Tier, and then I stop you. But
Because culturally, we don't like murdering women and children. Yeah, apparently.
But
that's a no-no.
He's not wrong though. The freaking Klingons will come and totally take over the planet. Which, if you ever while watching this episode wondered why can't they both be mining the planet, that's why, because the Klingons will just come and take over.
Yeah, no, but if anything, it makes me wonder why they sent a diplomat to pretend to be there for a treaty. Is it just to stall and like distract the Enterprise? Like, are we just?
I don't know.
Because we're trying to both get the Enterprise away from the planet, but also the one Klingon ship is not enough to take over the planet yet. So we're still negotiating with.
Well, it said they were a scout
people.
ship, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not like they would have to wait for an armada to sort of invade,
Yeah.
and that all sort of makes sense. So it is very much a let's prevent the treaty from being signed just yet, because at that point we'll have to declare war on all of the Federation instead of.
Well,
Fair enough.
Klingons also know, like, the Federation's weakness is that they'll go by the rules here. So if we can get an agreement, they won't mess with that. So we just got to get that happening so that
exactly, as long as we have an agreement, they'll, they won't stop us, even though they know we'll just take over the whole civilization.
Mm-hmm. So Kirk is just like, let's kill the Klingon. All right, cool. Like,
Sure.
I am not. Yeah, I mean, I guess she was like, let's. I don't know. Like, to me, like the rewrite at the end, or the way that they did the end, where she like hits McCoy over the head with the rock. Well, why did she have to do that?
Well, yeah, just so we have a red herring for will she join them again?
Yeah.
No, she's protecting her kid. And I guess she couldn't have told McCoy that she would just do that because he would have stopped her or followed her or some shit. I don't know. But also, it wasn't a great lie if the other two guys are just still walking around.
They did have their weapons. They did have their weapons taken from them, so I bought that they had made bows and arrows, and they were like, they haven't figured this one out yet, so they're gonna do like
no, sure.
And for those fight scenes, it actually looked
sense.
Pretty brutal.
yeah. The arrow to the knee was, like, yes, that's what he deserves.
Oh, like one guy had an arrow to the neck. It was just like, ding, like, oh my god.
Yeah.
This was 1967. Damn.
Yeah, I was more okay with the Klingon getting it than the random assholes, but sure.
I was a little annoyed and kind of like annoyed, but then also like amused by how the Capellans just talked like TV shows in this era depicted Native Americans.
Yeah.
Like, they changed white man for earth man, It's like, I begin to like you, white man. I saw fear in the Klingon's eye,
Yeah, there's like...
It's like stilted, broken English.
I mean, it's very stilted, but it didn't feel completely broken to me, at least. It was, grammatically sound enough, but just very wooden.
Yeah.
It had that sort of a formality without having big words, if anything, short words. But I see what you mean. Yeah, it had a flavor.
Yeah. Some of the lines here were fun. How did you arrange to touch her bones? Give her a happy pill? No, a right cross. Jesus Christ.
Like, he was slightly too proud of that, because he was like, it's in my arsenal from now on. When are you ever going to do this again? Yeah. Don't say that.
I think that was a joke, but
I'd hope so.
But even Kirk is like, I don't remember that being part of your
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is from now on. Okay, cool.
Which is a comfort, just knowing that it's not part of standard training procedure in medical school.
So we got the first instance of a much repeated catchphrase where when Scotty is saying,
I think it's come up before, because you've alerted me to that being a catchphrase.
Maybe.
Or it's a different catchphrase you're trying to get into now.
Well,
That could also be
did.
it.
There were two catchphrases present here. One of
Exactly.
them was McCoy saying, "I'm a doctor, not an escalator."
Yeah, which was a fun version of that one.
Fun version. But when Scotty on the bridge is talking about shame on, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, Chekhov says, "I know the saying. It was invented in Russia."
Yes.
And
That was the first time. Yeah. I did notice that one because I think you've also mentioned that at some point he's just the fact that he credits everything to Russia. That's just good shit.
Now, what I do like about this is it might be the first time he said it on the show, but the way he laughs and the way Sulu chuckles would indicate that Chekhov has been on this shit for quite some time. And Chekhov has made this joke before.
Yeah, because that was fun to me as well, where it's like, oh, this is already an established in-joke within the... Because it's clear that it's not serious, and he does smile when he says it, and everyone is just sort of, bemused. So that works for me. It was lovely.
By the way, this is the third episode of season 2, and we've every instance we've had of Chekhov has also had a Sulu there. So still don't know what the hell George Takei's been talking about all these years, where he was like not able to be on set, and then he came in and was like, "Who's this guy?" Like, no, this is production order, dude. Like, you were there.
Yeah.
They wanted a Davy Jones.
Weird lapse of memory. Lord knows.
Yeah.
I did feel like there were a lot of like weird back and forth shots where you got a close up of Scott, but he was standing at a different angle than when he started walking again. A couple, like, there was a lot of that kind of sloppy editing where I felt like, oh, they just didn't have the right shot to go in between there. Like it felt in that sense poorly directed. Something was off.
Yeah. There were a few things that were kind of off on this one. To be fair, I did like seeing Scotty in the captain role. I liked him being
absolutely. Yeah, it's fun that he's been there a lot recently.
We'll hang out for a little while longer, but this is a trap. Totally a trap. They're trying to divert us from the planet.
That made zero sense. Like, oh, we figure out the plot. It's all been one deception after another, and you know what? We got to make sure. Just. Stay on course. We're not going back for our captain just yet, even though it was clearly intended to, get us away from him and abandon them. But yeah, weird logic there. Spock would have pointed that out, I'm sure.
It was. Did you, I still don't understand. I've seen this episode not as many times as some, because I don't like this episode too much.
Sure.
Like, why did Ma'ab suddenly kill himself? At the end, he was like, no, my life is now forfeit. Did that make any sense to you? I still don't get it.
A slight bit, not entirely, because it felt like a sort of, I have to now go take care of this Klingon because he has outed himself as being a piece of shit, because he said some mean things about our culture. I'm going to stand here and let him shoot me. Less advanced weapons. But yeah, the way he went about it seemed weird, because apparently he saw no other option than to sacrifice himself, get someone else to kill him, instead of flipping that the other way around. So knowing he was gonna give up his fucking place, he was like, my life is forfeit, your kid can be high to air again. Like, what are we... It did not make a lot of sense. They just had to, give him some sort of redemption once he realized that the Klingon was an asshole. I guess it wasn't set up great in universe. No.
Yeah. So just to be fair to the episode, though, I don't think it's very strong, and it's not one of my favorites. But one of the reasons I dislike it so much is not his fault. one of the reasons I hate it so much is because I used to play when I was a kid Star Trek the 25th Anniversary NES game, and I feel like there's a handful of our listeners who are going, yes, and they know exactly what I'm talking about. In the first level, when you go into the little, you beam down to the planet, and it's just a pain in the ass. The whole game is a pain in the ass. But you beam down to the planet.
It's an NES game. I figured it was, hard.
Okay, so you beam down to the planet. It's like you, Spock, and McCoy. And you're Kirk. So as you maneuver, like McCoy and Kirk, like kind of, McCoy and Spock kind of like, they don't really follow around. They just kind of wander around, but kind of follow you. But if one of them gets trapped at a place, you can't go any further until you like convince them to come back. But when you get into like the little village of the cat people, they play the music from this episode. And it's just on a loop in MIDI form. So like I just like the whole episode I'm wanting to like
this whole melody is just
beat my own brains on
television. Yeah.
So like, but you would the game was hard enough sometimes, especially when you were a little kid trying to figure it out for the first time. You're just like, I can't. Oh my god, I gotta.
And I'm back in this music again.
Yeah, it's just like forever because when you're a kid, you don't want to play a video game with a sound down, even if it's annoying.
No, of course not. Imagine that.
Stupid cringy moments though in this episode. Uchi, Woochie, Coochie, Coo, Captain. An obscure Earth dialect, Mr. Spock. Uchi, Coochie, Coochie, Coo. If you're curious, consult linguistics. Jesus Christ.
I mean, I like the joke, but it's just dumb that they have to repeat it like 3 times poorly, and like I do enjoy it feels very Kirk to just fuck with Spock and be like, look it up. It's a thing we do on Earth.
And then
that makes sense.
So there's this end where we find out that the child was named Leonard James Akar.
Yeah.
Akar. And it has kind of a ring to it, don't you think, James? Yes, I think it's a name destined to go down in galactic history, Leonard. What do you think, Spock? That's fine. Spock's anger about this was so out of character. Where he's like, I think you're both going to be insufferably pleased with yourselves for at least a month. Sir. Like, why did you suddenly become a Klingon? Spock?
I didn't take it as such an angry remark. I just thought it was funny. I was just like, he has a point there. It does, like, because they are being insufferably pleased with themselves in the couple lines before that. It's very obviously like, yes, but the line delivery didn't strike me as weirdly out of character.
He seemed a little angrier than I thought.
Oh, okay. I just took it as stoic. Maybe no. I'd have to rewatch, which is not happening for a while.
At the very least, he was peeved, I would say. But you know what? Here's a kind of a neat thing.
But I would be too, because it is, I know. I took the gag for what it was.
Yeah, I tried to. But fun thing though, there was a couple of DS9 novels that would be set about 80, 90 years from this episode, where Leonard James Akar was from this planet was like a big deal. He was like a big like diplomat or some shit. Yeah,
delightful. Yep, destined to go down in galactic history.
He was an influential Starfleet admiral in several of the DS9 novels.
Nice.
I wrote it down here. Did you have any other thoughts before we get into trivia?
No, I'm very curious about the trivia. I'm because there's backstage drama and I'm there for it.
Okay.
Other than that, it's just there's a bunch of fighting. There's a bunch of they look funny. They do stuff. It's I'm not sure I have a lot to really delve into without that context of the trivia.
Yeah.
So sure.
So in Dorothy Fontana's original script, Elaine sacrificed her child for her own life. Gene Roddenberry objected to this and changed the ending to what appears in the finished episode. Fontana also envisioned Aileen as a strong woman who rebels against a society which considers women only as mothers and homemakers. In an interview with the Archive of American Television, she says, "I was really about a woman who was willing to use her child to save herself." Now, Gene changed that ending on me, so I was not real happy with the ending of Friday's Child. I don't think that all women are mommies, and I don't think that all women love their children. Just look at the news. And I wanted to tell a story about a woman who would even use a newborn child to save herself. It was wrapped up in an adventure with the Klingons and everything else. I had a good time creating that culture, that society that didn't especially care for women, except as broodmares. And she was trying to break out of that.
Yeah, makes sense. Like, it's still risky in execution because you could end up with an episode that's like, oh boy, this woman is fucked up evil, instead of, oh boy, this woman is right to throw the man's property, aka his kid, back in his face.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to toe that line when it's, about murdering a baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. But it must have been interesting. But that's a very different, resolution. Hallelujah. Ooh.
The name of this episode derives from the 1887 Harper's Weekly version of the old children's rhyme Monday's Child, which includes the line, "Friday's child is full of woe."
Mm-hmm.
In an interview
Doesn't
with the...
seem as on point anymore when you've changed the ending, but sure.
Yeah. In an interview with that same interview with the Archive of American Television, Fontana was quite frank about how the Klingons became the franchise's first recurring antagonists. "They became our chief antagonists because they were easy to make up." Boy, that didn't last. Didn't have ears as far as special prosthetics that have to be made up. They just did eyebrows and usually some makeup to darken their skin. They all tended to have dark hair. We had some really good ones like John Colicos, but they became our antagonist of choice because they were an easy makeup to do. The Romulans, who were more interesting, were a lot harder because of the ears. We tried not to show too many Vulcans because of the same problem. The ears, especially when you had a group of people. If it was just one, it was a little easier to deal with. The Klingons, Gene Kuhn invented them, and they suddenly became really popular for us.
That makes sense, but also, didn't we have most of the Romulans just wear helmets over their ears because that was easier? Mm-hmm. You could have kept doing that trick.
They did do that trick on Vulcan. They had some Vulcans wearing those helmets.
But that fucks with the whole military history. Okay. Anyway, we're not there yet.
Why does it fuck with the military history?
Because it feels like, okay, you've established this as a Romulan thing. We haven't seen necessarily any other Vulcans other than Spock, but it slightly irks me if it's the same type of helmet. Like, there needs to be some differentiation there.
I mean, they may have changed them, but it's the same helmet if you look at it. But
exactly.
Also, also
there is a shared history, of course, but also
the Romulans are an offshoot of Vulcan society. Yeah. Both of their police forces are called the Tal Shiar at some point. Like, yeah, it makes sense.
It does. Okay, purely from an ignorance point of view, as far as has been established up to this point, the Romulans seem far more militarized than the Vulcans. That might be fully not the case once we get further along in this shit. But that's why I'm like, wait, why give them the same helmets? Come on.
Yeah, they're different. The Romulans are more paranoid and militarized, and the Vulcans are more pacifistic. But,
yeah, if the pacifism is a thing that does stick, why are we wearing helmets, period?
Because they didn't want to show the ears.
I know that's the true reason, but it's the shitty in-universe reason.
Okay, but in-universe, what it is like, it's like a ritualistic thing, like an ancient ritualistic thing going on. You'll see it in a couple episodes. I swear to God, you're going to see it.
Yeah, we'll get there. Okay, we're close.
You'll see it.
That's good.
You're close. You'll see what I'm
Okay,
talking
okay. Looking forward to that because
about.
I am interested by more Falcon Romulan shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
either
you
or,
should
I'll
be.
take it. Like,
You should
come
be.
on,
You got a lot of good stuff coming up. That's
yay.
it. That's all I got. What do you got? Anything else?
No, that's all fair. I'm just trying to process the whole how would this have worked differently, but it does really end up with that whole, oh, now I gotta protect my kid, and oh, the weird adoration of McCoy that just keeps on going, like, now it's your kid, and it's
Yeah,
just, it leads to a funny joke at the end, but while it's happening, I was just thoroughly like, what are we doing?
yeah,
Why?
and like the whole "I hate my kid" thing just doesn't ever
No, it
pay
doesn't
off. It
doesn't
doesn't go
pan
anywhere.
out. There's nothing. No, it isn't even acknowledged in any other line other than the voiceover. It's just,
I mean, it's acknowledged in that McCoy
it's
keeps trying to
acknowledged.
like get her
Yeah, it's
to.
acknowledged in the sense of like, no, it's your kid and not the dead father's, and yeah, like that. In that sense, is consistent with the cultural thing, but it's not explicit that she hates it. It's just like, I feel no connection with it because it's not mine. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't quite go that far as like, fuck this kid, why is it inside me?
yeah.
Um,
I mean, it doesn't also. It also doesn't go into too deeply into, well, I am not a person. I'm just property, and I'm just
exactly. Yeah.
the
That
incubation
doesn't come
chamber for
across
this
either
next
because,
king.
especially because she gets to have that sort of highfalutin attitude of, you are not allowed to touch me because I might be property, but I'm his property,
Yeah,
That's, that suggests more ego than if she did truly feel like yet another bit of property.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. It didn't come across that way
Yeah, it's weird and problematic, and
in many ways. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's very much trying to depict a problematic as fuck society. It's just, then what do we do with it? Because we need the fucked up society to be for their resources, which ends up making it a really weird colonial tale of like, gotta help these savages understand that, weakness is worth still protecting and
yeah,
healing instead of purely, letting everyone die who doesn't deserve to live, type shit,
yeah.
where it's like, I'm not sure I like this.
And now it's like
Um,
they didn't really go aside from naming the kid after
yeah.
McCoy and Kirk. They didn't really go into like, what does this mean? Because she was saying like, oh, this is your kid now, McCoy. Well, he just deadbeat dad it all. Like, he just
Yeah, he just
took
fucked
off.
right off. Yeah.
So like, what are what are his responsibilities now? Like, what does he do with this kid? Like, how does he have anything to do with this kid?
Apparently nothing, because she becomes the regent for the kid,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's sort of establishing like a first time that a woman gets any power in her hands or something. But then again, that the fact that that is a first is also only implied from, the context we've talked about, instead of really anything we've seen other than she needs to die because she was the wife of the previous guy.
mm-hmm.
That's the only disregard for female life we've really seen. And then it just sort of ends up with, but I can be queen mother,
Yeah,
in a way.
yeah,
So yeah, it's just not very coherent in terms of what it's going for because it's been changed around, and I'm not sure that what it tries to be going for is all that much better. So there's just a bunch of things that do not quite add up to anything that doesn't make me go, "Ooh, this didn't age well." I think that's just the conclusion on most fronts. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. This is one of those. Sorry, Star Trek.
Yeah.
Better luck next time.
Yeah. You tried. I had fun watching it, but looking back on it, I'm just like, yeah, but it really doesn't do anything, does it?
All right. You got anything else? You ready to call this one? It's kind of a short one.
Yeah, we'll take it. Like we can't always go through every bit of plot with a fine-tooth comb, because Lord knows there's just a bunch of, weird names and stuff that happens, and I don't know, there's a coup.
You don't have to go to the plot, Effie.
No, I'm just like, am I forgetting
this.
anything? I don't think so. It's just they're just walking through some rocky mountains and stuff happens.
Yeah.
They find vegetation.
Yeah, cute thing. Fortunately, this bark has suitable tensile cohesion. You mean it makes a good bowstring? I believe I said that. Wah, wah.
Yeah. That wasn't the best joke. No, I like the other ones better. And that one was just like, okay, fine, guys. Spell it out for the audience. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not one of the greats, no.
It's not. All right, well. Next time is Showtime with the Apollo, when we'll be talking about who mourns for Adonis.
Ooh. Will it be us? I don't know.
Will it be us? Well, of course it'll be us.
Well, spoilers. We're going to end up mourning for this guy? I don't even know him yet.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant as like the host. I'm like, oh, I thought we were the hosts. What are you talking about? Of course
we are the hosts, right?
Yeah, I'll mourn for Adonis.
Okay, sure. Well, that's a plan.
Yeah.
See you then.
Why not? A giant green hand pops up out of space and grabs the Enterprise. That's going to be a lot of fun.
I hadn't realized that yet. No, I am utterly excited for whatever weirdness that's gonna be.
Yeah. This is one of those memorable ones from when I was a kid. Like, I remember this when I was like 4.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the Enterprise is flying along, and then all of a sudden there's a giant green hand just holding the Enterprise in place.
This is gonna be interesting.
Yay, Greek gods and sci-fi.
That's how space works. Oh, that's never a bad thing. It will make zero sense, but I do like me some Greek mythology, and whatever I can, pinpoint that doesn't make sense about it.
I think it makes sense.
Ooh, even better.
I do think it makes sense for the most part. All right, well,
promises.
Until next time, it's going to be so terrible now, because I'm not going to remember right, But, yeah. Until next time, Joel and Drew, live long and prosper, and of course,
eat a dick, people. And plank on that clit.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.